You'll never wed the prince. You'll wed the king.
But I will be queen.
Oh, yes. You'll be queen. For a time. And comes another. Younger.
The Valonqar prophecy is one of the most discussed topics in the A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones fandom. And in today's video, I will explain why I believe there's a strong chance that Brienne of Tarth is the younger and more beautiful queen that Maggie the Frog speaks of when Cersei visits her. It would be fitting if Jaime Lannister killed Cersei Lannister as she spirals down into madness, much like Mad King Aerys Targaryen. But if we take this theory literally, that when your tears have drowned you, the Valonqar shall wrap his hands around your pale white throat and choke the life from you, then we have a slight problem. Jaime Lannister only has one hand, which would make choking someone to death extremely difficult. Valonqar in High Valyrian means little brother, which fits Cersei Lannister's brother Tyrion Lannister perfectly, and in the book, Cersei is convinced that it's him, which causes her to mistrust him. But the term Valonqar also applies to Jaime Lannister, as he was born only minutes after Cersei. These are the best two candidates to kill Cersei, as they both are little brothers, but Tyrion has already killed their father Tywin Lannister, committing patricide, and Cersei believes the Valonqar is Tyrion, which makes me think that it's not him. Cersei is less likely to suspect someone she's had children with, and the person she's shared such a strong connection with for the majority of her life. Both prophecy and beauty often involve interpretation. Experiencing beauty often involves a strong attraction to something and generally a feeling of emotional well-being. Because this can be a subjective experience, it's often said that beauty is in the eye of the beholder. In a broad sense, to experience beauty, it has to be admired. Since beauty is interpretive, I decided to take a closer look at the history of interpretation of the word beauty, and I found something very interesting when I looked at the common Greek or biblical Greek interpretation of the word beauty. The Greek word for beautiful was an adjective coming from the word hora, meaning hour. Beauty was thus associated with being of one's hour. Thus, a ripe fruit of its time was considered beautiful, whereas a young woman trying to appear older or an older woman trying to appear younger would not be considered beautiful. I find this very interesting because of the connection of beauty to time, which is also clearly referenced in the Valonqar prophecy. For a time, you will be queen. Exactly, for a time. Our interpretation can change over time as we move through different stages of our life. Jaime Lannister has changed so much since we first met him, and has finally decided to keep his word to fight for the side of the living with Jon and Daenerys against the Night King and the Army of the Dead. This is why Jaime walks away from Cersei in the finale of Season 7, because she lacks honor. And this is why the conversation that Jaime and Brienne have about the Mad King at Harrenhal is so important. Jaime had to dishonor himself and break his vow so that the Mad King didn't burn King's Landing to ash. And this is when Brienne starts accepting Jaime for who he is and not the Kingslayer label that he carries. Both Jaime and Brienne share a strong desire to be honorable despite their faults, and we can't ignore the parallels connecting these two characters and the relationship that they've built. Prophecies are metaphoric in nature, which is why Brienne could be the Valonqar. She doesn't fit the words of the prophecy literally because of her appearance. Brienne doesn't fit the traditional beauty standards in Westeros and is often referred to as Brienne the Beauty as a mockery. In A Dance of Dragons, there's a quote which really stood out to me from Cersei Lannister in Cersei 1, chapter 54, where she states, "The queen remembered the Maid of Tarth, a huge, ugly, shambling thing who dressed in a man's mail. Jaime would never abandon me for such a creature." This statement from Cersei is twisted with irony, just as prophecies can be as well. And we've clearly seen from what Jaime says in the Season 8 trailer and from Jaime and Cersei's last interaction in Season 7 that Cersei is wrong. However, there's still another wrinkle to unravel in this theory, because Maggie the Frog says queen and Brienne of Tarth is not a queen. This part of the prophecy is a bit more confusing because most people would say, well, isn't Daenerys or Marjorie or even Sansa better candidates to be the younger and more beautiful queen? Cersei Lannister herself is a queen, and Jaime is the Kingslayer. and Jaime's interactions with Brienne has had a big impact on how he currently views the world. So couldn't we say that Brienne helped sever the marriage and connection between Jaime and his Kingslayer label and Cersei, who is Queen of the Seven Kingdoms? If this stands to be true, and if Cersei has a miscarriage of her and Jaime's child, we could see the drowning of tears portion of the prophecy taking place. Drowning in sorrow and drowning in drink. An important part of Game of Thrones Season 8 will be the theme of identity, and ultimately we will see the rise or fall of the remaining point of view characters. Both Jaime and Brienne will be in the same location, and I suspect it will not be easy for Jaime when he first arrives to the north because of the history between the Starks and the Lannisters. But since Brienne will be there, she can vouch for Jaime's character. We hear Jaime say that he's vowed to keep his promise to fight for the side of the living in the Season 8 trailer. And in my most recent Jaime Lannister video, I discussed why he will be trading in his white cloak of the Kingsguard for his honorary black cloak of the Night's Watch. I don't think it's a stretch to suggest that they will lose the Battle of Winterfell against the Army of the Dead, setting up a retreat and the possible last return to King's Landing. If we are seeing these tears of sorrow from Cersei because she has lost her child with Jaime, then I believe we will see the full transformation of Cersei Lannister into Cersei the Mad Queen. If Cersei's endgame does start to mirror Mad King Aerys Targaryen's, then she will more than likely close the gates to King's Landing as she becomes more paranoid. And in order to remove Cersei from the Iron Throne, they will have to go through the mountain, and there's a strong chance that they will try to evacuate the city so that the Night King can't add to the Army of the Dead before the city is sacked. One thing I really like about the show version of this story is the relationship between Sandor Clegane the Hound and Brienne of Tarth. Even though they were opposed early on in their stories, we could see them team up to fight the Mountain together in the Clegane Bowl. I could see one of two scenarios taking place where Jaime watches Brienne die in the Clegane Bowl, and because of this, he ends Cersei's life once and for all. Or we could see Brienne of Tarth become a Queenslayer after Jaime dies in her arms. Brienne would finish what Jaime started, and Jaime would die honorably trying to do the right thing. Game of Thrones at its core is a story of identity, and if Brienne comes full circle and so does Jaime, we could see their histories rewritten and viewed in a different light. Brienne is so important to Jaime Lannister's transformation as a person, and I think it would be poetic if in Jaime's death he got what he always wanted, some atonement and redemption showing that he was actually an honorable man. And if we're lucky, Brienne will be the one to write these words in the White Book, Brienne of Tarth the Queenslayer. I still believe there's a pretty strong chance that Jaime is the Valonqar and will be the one to kill Cersei. I could see him sacrificing himself with the rest of King's Landing in an attempt to lure in the Army of the Dead and set off the rest of the wildfire, decimating a large portion of the Night King's forces. But I thought it would be really fun to explore a different idea on the channel with Brienne of Tarth being the Valonqar. I would love to hear your thoughts and theories on who you think is going to kill Cersei Lannister and who you think might be the Valonqar. And let me know in the comments section what theory or topic you would like to see my next video. A big thank you to all of the new subscribers on the channel and awesome patrons on Patreon who support this channel. Today's Super PAC patrons of the day are Joseph Boros, the Prince That Wasn't Promised, and Wesley Mons, Cal Swolgo. Feel free to reach out to me on social media. The links are in the description of this video. I'll see you all in the next video. Hype and love.